Okay, everybody got a seat. Welcome. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaking Group of Doylestown, PA. A couple quick announcements. The church mandates us to wear these masks in here, so please be mindful. That's part of the deal that we have with them, to have the space. And we have a beautiful space here. We like to keep it. We like to have this meeting each night. We got a little change in plans. Our speaker, for somehow, got screwed up. So God sent us another speaker. You'll enjoy this. Maybe you won't. We got a double money back. He guaranteed us a double money back guarantee on our 7th tradition. So whatever you put in the basket. Anyway, we'll have some fun tonight. I'm going to come up here and get the chair, and Brian's going to do our chair tonight. We'll have some fun. Don't forget to stay after the meeting.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Great to be up here tonight. Very grateful to be here tonight after not having our meeting here on Saturday. Incredibly grateful to be here tonight. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 in Doylestown, PA. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. If there is anyone that is new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first-name basis so we can welcome you. Yeah.
I'm Mike, an alcoholic.
Mike, welcome. Anybody else? Okay.
Marko, alcoholic.
Marko, welcome. Thank you. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. So would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and that is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. All right, so if you're new, grab one of those people after the meeting and we'll hopefully help you get into the solution a little bit. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Nothing from anybody? Okay. This group has a couple of announcements. We do have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books or CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put their donations in the jar on the back table there, marked Big Book and CD donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are available free of charge. And with that, Kara is going to come up here. She's going to read the preamble.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carol. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, and it feels so good to be here tonight. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you. Now I would like to ask Alon to come up and read the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Hey guys, Alon, alcoholic. Here we go. The 12 steps of AA. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge or His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thanks.
Okay, 7th tradition, every A group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we're going to pass around the basket. We'll make sure that makes its way around. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. Your contributions help us to cover the cost of rent, big books, the refreshments, CDs. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property, as I believe Ron mentioned. Pretty much the only thing the church asks of us is, that we be respectful and keep the premise clean. So if you could please be considerate of that as you're coming and going. Just clean up after yourselves. We don't need to give them any reason to shut us down again, especially around now. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to help me welcome our speaker for tonight, let's get an especially warm welcome to our speaker who's come here on short notice to help us share his experience, strength, and hope with us tonight. And tonight I'd like to introduce from the Sober Dads group of New York City. Please give a round of applause to Marko.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Marko, and definitely a real alcoholic, right? It took me a long time to get to that point in my life, and I'm grateful to be here tonight. I really am. Didn't come out here didn't even want to speak or be a speaker, but I actually came to support Ron and see this group for the first time. I've listened to all the speaker tapes on YouTube, and thank you. Nice water at the podium. You are classy, Ron. I don't care what they say about you. No, it's a great group. I mean, if you listen to the message on YouTube, it's just every speaker brings a message of hope and strength and recovery. And I'll do my best to do that tonight because I'm still working this thing. I'm still have a series of surrenders every day. It's sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. I don't get enough of this recovery. I don't have enough freedom. But I guess that's part of the process. Is working these steps and. I don't think it's coincidence that on Mother's Day, my mom died from alcoholism when I was 16. And here I am, on a podium at Alcoholics Anonymous speaking about recovery. So I'll do my best to bring a message. My whole life I really have been a pretty stubborn guy, to say the least. And I'm still that way. But when you grow up with alcoholic parents and with alcoholism in your family, I think from an early age, chaos is kind of the normal for me. And, quickly, I'll just say that, my life now, I'm pretty happy and free. I've been around here for a while, 4 years, and I've worked the steps a couple times. I sponsor guys. I go to meetings. I'm of service. I try to keep my phone on, take phone calls. I have a sponsor who I'm accountable to. I do a daily inventory. I went did my amends. I have a God, my understanding. But, sometimes that's not enough. I still go back to my isms, and I still want to do things my way. Just today I had my son, I want to control things. I have fear. So that's why daily I really have to do this program. That's why it's one day at a time. I can't, coast on yesterday's recovery. It's just, I can't do that for me. If I try to do that, everybody around me suffers. So I need to get up in the morning. I need to pray. I need to meditate every single morning. I need to start my day with third step prayer. Pray for people who I'm resentful for, and then ask God to guide me throughout the day, remove my selfishness. And when I do that, I have a good day. People around me have a good day, and the world is a good place to be in. And when I don't do that, my days are miserable. Not like they used to be, though. So I'm pretty free today. But I'll start, my mother did die from alcoholism. I was 16 years old. My brother found her, on the floor, right? Accidental overdose. And I never got to say goodbye to her. We had a couple weeks of just not talking. And the last time I saw her, she was in a hospital bed dying. So, on Mother's Day, it's nice that somewhere out there she's looking over me. I feel that way. I really, truly do. And alcoholism was part of her family. She grew up with it. I've grown up with it. It's on both sides of my family. And I believe it's hereditary. There's parts of it that come through genetics, but I also continue to go that route. So I'm not blaming my mom or my dad for anything, but you grow up with that, and it makes you who you are. I did a lot of damage in my life. I'm supposed to be for 45 minutes, so I'm not going to tell all my war stories, but it's hard to look at other people and imagine what their upbringings were like when I know what mine was like, the chaos. Like I remember Mother's Day. I know she always tried to have a nice Mother's Day for us, but there was always some side of like anxiety and angst and worry and just like tension with her, no matter what. Even if it was a kind, loving morning, somehow throughout the day there'd be a fight. And I really don't want to be that person, and that takes work, because that's the isms for me. It's like the fear, the anxiety, the nothing's enough, the misery, the self-pity. That's all the isms. And if I can be grateful, gratefulness and gratitude is huge for me. I grew up in Chicago, and my mom was from Finland, so she came to Finland. She came from Finland to Chicago, met my dad somehow, and we were raised in the north side of Chicago, in the city. And Chicago is very different than Finland. It's a completely polar opposites: peaceful country, beautiful, trees, and then you have hard, not inner city Chicago, but it's a city, and it complete polar opposites, and just. Grew up, everything was pretty peaceful. I remember a lot of peace, a lot of happiness, and then as years went by, there was more and more chaos. The police would come, the firefighters, things would happen, fights would happen, fist fights, arrests, and, to me that was normal. And then, when the neighborhood is kind of like, what is going on here? And for me, it's normal when the firefighters come and the cops come, and then when my mother and dad divorced, she went and did her own thing and lived in a condo. My brother went with her. But, I always had backup plans, sports. I was always a very active guy. So I kind of kept myself occupied through teenage years. And I don't know too long into like a whole life story here, but it has a lot to do with it, because when I got anxious, I played sports. And then when I stopped, treating that with sports, I started treating it with alcohol and drugs. So my anxiety and my fears that were inside of me to begin with started getting treated with the drugs and alcohol. So the drugs and alcohol were always the treatment. They were never really the problem. The problem is deeper inside of me, which is something I'm starting to uncover, going through these steps a couple times. But, my mother did die from alcoholism, so last time I saw her was in a hospital bed, and I remember we had to pull the plug on her, basically. They said she's dying, her liver's failing, all her organs are failing. I came from school, they picked me up, and I'm like, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, but I left the hospital, 16 years old, the first thing I did was get high. And that continued for 20 years. My solution to problems and to pain and to suffering was drugs and alcohol. And I was able to maintain a pretty good life. I played sports, so I was able to go leave Chicago and come out to New Jersey and New York City and play sports, play soccer in college. Met a beautiful woman, and finagled her into marrying me and did the whole thing, right? Like I was charismatic enough to her where I always thought myself of being this really kind and loving guy, and I really wasn't. It's when you do your steps the first time and you do that first fourth step, man, it's eye-opening when you can finally look back and see you weren't really the person you thought you were your whole entire life. That was very eye-opening for me the first time I did the steps. And, I have a good relationship now with my dad, my brother, and all the people in Chicago, but I'll try to keep this to the solution best I can. And for me, it's still daily, like I said. I cannot, without getting too into detail about the causes and conditions of my alcoholism, which I believe went way back into my family tree. It was still my choice at the end. I had a choice. My brain might have been rewired. You look at all the scientific explanations of brain rewiring and this and that. As my marriage progressed, my alcoholism progressed, my isolation progressed. So I continued to hide, right? I'm 26 years old, married now in New Jersey, out of college, not knowing what the problem is, but I'm still applying the solution of my teenage years, drugs and alcohol, fixing it. So it worked for a little bit. It worked for a little bit of time. As I'm going through life, I start finding my path is veering towards a life of partying, because that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I started working in nightclubs in New York City. I was a nightclub promoter. I never wanted to do that. I started going across the world, you're an alcoholic when you create a TV show based off of nightlife, right? Like, that's what I wanted. I never wanted to even do that, but I started making videos about DJs and going to clubs while I'm married, which is, that thing doesn't work out too well. When you're married and you're going out filming in nightclubs, that's not going to end well. But that's what I did for years, and I just did things my way. And, it's all part of what I hear recently was that something about the alcoholism kind of subconsciously morphs your life to be able to consume more. And that's exactly what was happening. So I had my own company. I'm doing these ridiculous things, going to Miami and LA and thinking I'm really cool and seeing celebrities and, getting in fights everywhere I go. I got stabbed in the head in a nightclub. I got kicked out of the country of Mexico. It was just one thing after another, after another, after another. And I swear, I'd wake up the next morning and be like, all right, I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking definitely today. I'm not drinking today. All right, well, all right, maybe just have a beer. And that continued. And that's the psychotic part of it, is because I really meant it. I remember on my birthday in Mexico, the first day there, the hotel staff nicknamed me El Animal. And we all thought it was hilarious, right? We destroyed, it's just chaos. The whole room, destroyed the room. And I remember promising myself, I'm not drinking ever again after this, just embarrassing my wife. It was one of my best friend's wife's 30th birthday or 32nd birthday. We ruined it. I'm laughing now, but completely ruined it. Everybody's crying, and I promised myself. I remember I had like a little moment too with God, and I'm like, I'm not drinking, God. I need you. A day goes by, 2 days go by. We're still in Mexico, and we're sitting there. I'm like, a glass of wine with the ocean is okay. So, did that, and then a glass of wine led to tequila, craft tequila, and there goes that idea. So it lasted for a couple of minutes until you get it in you, and now you look back and I'm like, man, that's the mental obsession and the physical, the cravings, right? I had no idea what they were until it happened. Now you look back, you can see the path. In the moment, though, I just didn't understand it, and then you forget about it. Whatever. It happens. I could go on to my war stories forever. I just don't. That's not me anymore. I'm not a guy who. That was never me. That was a disease, and I can say that with confidence because I don't act like that anymore. I mean, I don't go out to nightclubs and get in fights, and I still can be a jerk to my kids sometimes, and I can make mistakes, but I have a 10th step, I have 11th step, I apologize, I make amends immediately, right, as it says. But for me to get to my first step, I mean, it was like just constantly getting beat into a state of reasonableness, or submission at least. It's more like submission, because I had to get, chokeholded out by God and by life. It just, I was not the kind of guy to give up. I have a tattoo on the inside of my arm that says sisu, and that's a Finnish word for never giving up, no matter what, basically. So that was my motto. It was like, I'm not giving up. And that was my motto my entire life. I'm not giving up. I don't care what the heck happens to me or anybody around me, but I'm not giving up. Because, my grandfather fought in World War II. He killed 100,000 people, and I'm not giving up. Man, I mean, I caused a lot of damage. And, at the end, there was, it's just, the people who love me the most are the ones that I hurt the most. And that's still sad for me to this day. And my ex-wife, unfortunately, I had a storybook romance. I mean, I met her, I was 19 on a beach. The second day I meet her, I'm like, I love you and I want to marry you. Basically. She's like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? And it's literally exactly what I said to her. And we ended up getting married, had kids, but I just kept drinking, and then ended up, being mean and nasty to her for years. And I regret it. I regret it now. And she was the first person on my 4-step and the first person on my amends. And the way I hit a rock bottom was her kicking me out of my house, out of our house, out of getting the police involved, restraining orders, living in a friggin' Holiday Inn. We went from a mansion. I went from a mansion to a Holiday Inn like that, and that's exactly how I woke up. And I remember waking up this morning after but I was trying to quit. I could never do it. And, I think God saved my life that night, because I would have been dead. And I woke up in this Holiday Inn, like, what the heck just happened? And she had called the police on me because I was yelling and screaming and just acting crazy. And I would have called the police on me too. I was untreated alcoholic, still drinking, still using drugs, taking every single thing, self-diagnosed. I go to the doctor, tell him I got ADD. Thank you, I'll take that. Yeah, I also have, I'm anxious. Okay, I'll take your Xanax. I mean, I took everything. I'm depressed, sure, give me that. Go to my friend, I need to go to the gym, give me some steroids. It was crazy at the end. Like, looking back, how can anybody want to do that? But I guess I'm trying to balance it out, trying to find this balance of feeling good about myself and not being depressed or angry. And it didn't work. It didn't work. I don't suggest trying to find the right medication doses. And just recently, I'll jump ahead a little bit, but recently I went to a doctor for a physical 4 years after being sober and being in recovery. And the spiritual solution for me, being healthy, eating good, running, whatever, we're praying. The doctor was like, are you still on, she named like 4 medications, and I haven't seen her in a year or 2, this is right after my recovery. So I'm like, no. She's like, what are you on? I'm like, God. And she's like, what the heck? She literally thought I was crazy. And she's like, what do you, I'm like, I'm in AA. If you ever need someone who needs help, tell them to call me. And she goes in this whole conversation about, okay, fine, I'll have people call you. But no one's ever called me from her doctor's office. I'm still waiting now. I try to 12-step people in the most random places. Like at the gym yesterday, there's a guy I ran this shatterproof 5K thing during the quarantine. And this guy at the gym was wearing a U-turn Recovery for Christ shirt. And I was like, hey, are you in recovery? He's like, no, my son is, but he doesn't seem to get it. And we had a long conversation. I'm like, listen, just give him my number. If he ever wants to call me, please tell him to call me, because I'll do my best to tell him my experience. And I can't believe that these words are coming out of my mouth, like trying to help anybody I can, because all I want to do my whole life was consume and take. I was very selfish person, and I could still get that way, but I legitimately meant it. I meant, like, can I help your son? Because there is freedom in these steps and in this program and in having a God who loves you. There really is, and you don't have to live with that bondage and anxiety and that hate towards everybody and towards yourself. So, my relationship with the kid's mom, my ex-wife, it's still that's my most challenging resentment to let go of, because I've changed, right? I've done all these things, and how can't you see that? Why didn't you keep us together? Blah blah blah. But there's consequences in life, and if you do a lot of damage to certain people, we're just human beings. Like, what am I expect her to be a saint? And so that's still, I still work this program. I still go through this thing every day. I remember, the first meeting I went to after the incident, let's say that, where I woke up on Holiday Inn. I woke up that morning. My dad happened to be in town. It's sad that he had to see this. And I woke up and I just couldn't believe what happened. And I was sitting on my knees, crying, asking God, what happened in my life? A grown man. My dad is looking at me, 6 foot tall, 31 years old, crying, saying, God, I remember when I was 35 or something. And he's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know where this came from, but I'm just like, in the middle of tears, I stopped. I'm going to go to an AA meeting. It was like out of an after-school special. And I went to an AA meeting. And literally, in the AA meeting, it was a huge meeting like this, a big meeting on a Sunday morning. And I had gone in and out. My Uncle Carl planted a seed. I'd gone to a few meetings over that year. I said, I'm not going to AA. This is ridiculous. I'm just going to go to the gym. And raise my hand, and I just start crying. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Marko. And it literally was like the weight lifted off my back instantly. And that's my first step right there. The research was my first step. The damage was my first step. The chaos that led up to that, it's just all I had to do was admit it. Admit I was powerless and my life was unmanageable. The proof was there. My life was unmanageable. You couldn't hide it anymore. And I'm laughing now, but man, I was in a lot of pain. Thank God I can laugh about it now. Because I remember just feeling like, I had to work in New York City at the time, and I was living on my French couch in Brooklyn. It wasn't even a couch, I was just talking about this in the car. It was literally an air mattress on his kitchen floor with rats, I'm not even kidding you, rats running around. And they're paying like $2,500 for this apartment in New York. I'm like, reading a big book, like, my life, I'm just like, I don't know what happened. And reading a big book on the floor, so desperate. But that's what I needed. I needed to be so desperate that I didn't have any other choice except to work through the steps. Because otherwise I wasn't going to do it. I was going to do it my way, like my tattoo says, and never give up. But God was like, nah, you're going to feel some pain here. And that's what happened. So I started going to meetings. And any meeting I could find, I started going to them. My brother's like, nobody got it. My brother loves me. I love my brother. My dad. They kind of just like, what is this thing? No one gets it. I was a bad brother too. I was just a bad person at times. It's just, and now I see it wasn't who I am. It's not who I am. With AA, it was interesting how I found my home group, which is still my home group, Sober Dads. My dad is, he saw me in the middle. He's like, you got to go to this divorced men's seminar or something. I'm like, So I went to this seminar in the middle of Manhattan, and I go in there, like, this is just people complaining, and I'm like, this is horrible. And they asked me what I was there for, and I go, I'm sober, and I'm sober about a month. And this guy comes up to me afterwards. He's like, do you know Bill? And I'm like, are you friends with Bill? I'm like, no, I don't think I'm friends with Bill. And I'm like, Bill who? And he's like, Bill W. I'm like, no, I don't know him. And it's Bill, okay, so it's Bill W. You get it. And he's like, you should go to this group, Sober Dads. He's like, okay, I'll whatever. Yes, I'll go. So I go to the group Sober Dads, and I started connecting. I started relating to guys. There was people in the entertainment industry. There was people in finance. There was, iron workers, motorcycle mechanics. And 4 guys named Mark, English Mark, Russian Mark, motorcycle Mark. I'm not kidding you. Really, there was Marko. It's just like, but I started to feel accepted. I started to feel connection. And for me, that was huge to have that, because it was like a team, like a sports team again. And everybody's trying to get sober together. Everybody's trying to grow together spiritually. And that's how I felt it. And with the recovery, the best there always? I don't know, maybe not, but it's what I needed at the time. And my first sponsor, Max, was in there, and a good friend of his, Alon, is here tonight too. he was such a kind and loving guy. Like, if I had a sponsor like Ron, then I'd be like, no way, this is too strict. I can't do it. And I needed that, that empathetic, hugging sponsor for the first couple months and years and year and a half, whatever it was. I mean, when I had a problem, I called him, and he kind of counseled me through it. Going through the steps. I mean, I had a higher power coming in. I had some spiritual experiences, with the Christian faith and going to Emmaus and things like this over my life. I remember a good friend of mine, Jimmy, who's also happened to be in the program. The funny thing is, he saw the writing on the wall. He's been sober a long time. He invited me, this is years ago, to this spiritual retreat called Emmaus. And this is before I ever wanted to even get sober. So he invites me to this retreat. It's 3 days long. South Florida. I'm like, yeah, South Florida, yeah. I'm coming to Florida. And no, it was not. It was in a hall like this. I mean, with little bunk rooms. And 6 a.m., the bell's going off, and you're getting up and you're praying. I'm like, this is crazy. But I had a spiritual experience there. I had an awakening. And at the end of it, you get up on a podium like this, and you're speaking to this huge group. And I'm like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to be a light. I'm going to be so loving to everybody and to my wife and to the kids. I'm going to God is with me. I'm going to be different. Go in the parking lot, and they go to get dinner. Everybody's at dinner. I had no idea everybody was sober. I have no idea. I have no idea how I even missed it. That's how much in denial and how selfish I am. We go to get dinner, and everybody orders Sprite or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'll take what kind of wine do you have? I'll have a bottle of your white wine. And they look at me like I'm freaking crazy. I'm just like, what do you want from me? And like that, just gone. Spirituality was literally gone in an instant. But that was years ago. But the funny thing is, me and Jimmy are very well connected now. He actually, it's funny, tomorrow is his 36th year being in recovery. And he's a good friend of mine and a mentor to me, just like Ron is. But that home group saved my life, really did. Because just staying connected to people, understanding it, being of service. I took a service commitment there. They told me to get a service commitment and put away chairs. I mean, honestly, it makes no sense if you're first coming into AA, putting away chairs, how that's going to help me get my wife back. But that's what I want. I'm like, I'm going to get sober. I'm going to get my wife back, get my house back, get the respect of my in-laws. Not even understanding that it's life or death. Like, I'm going to die if I drink. And my mom died of this. I had an uncle died of it. And just still didn't get it, so it took some time for me to really understand it. But I did what they asked me to do in the rooms, and I started to feel a little better. I had a job. I worked in hospitality at the time. This is until the whole, restaurants were not allowed last year. But I did video for hospitality companies, so I would be doing these huge events. A couple weeks into sobriety, and there's beer and wine going everywhere. And I was still so automatic that even though I didn't want to drink, there was a couple times a tray would go by. I literally would just grab it. I'm like, what? This is in my hand. Literally it happened. I don't know if that's ever happened anyway, but it's automatic. And now I have no urge at all I guess that's why they say a drink is an arm length away, because I don't know. Is it just like an automatic reflex, like those old G.I. Joe characters when you move it? And people thought I was so crazy. The only guy out of 500 people who didn't drink in this company, and they thought I was some straight shooting Bible thumper. And I'm like, you're the nerd or something. And just played it low key. And then I remember a year into my recovery, a woman who I constantly butted heads with there, I'm like, I'm sober a year today. I don't even know how it came up. But she's like, oh, really? My boyfriend's sober 10 years. And it's just like, oh, so whatever. The whole relationship changed. And New York City is a good place to get sober. There's a lot of meetings, especially in early recovery. You can go to. I went to meetings every single day. It was no Zoom. And congrats to the Zoom generation of sobriety, because it's just, I like the Zoom meetings, but I would look at my app and go to one meeting, next meeting, go to meeting for lunch, go after, and I was in a bad place. And yes, my divorce went through. Me getting sober didn't save my marriage, which was the plan. I'm going to get sober, I'm going to save my marriage, and the block is going to welcome me back with a welcome parade. That did not happen. It did not happen. She actually just told me that day she still hates me. So I guess I haven't changed that much, right? But I've tried. And maybe she hates the fact that I got sober and she asked me to and I never did. I mean, I don't know. And I can't judge that. And I'd have to try to make living amends. I'm actually speaking in a couple of weeks at a meeting about amends. And I always thought, I saw amends on her. I'm like, when can I get to amends? Because that's when everything's going to change and she's going to forgive me, right? And you're like, I don't know, maybe. And it didn't work that way. Like, it's a living amends. Like, I didn't just go up and make the amends and, all right, you're forgiven. 20 years of chaos, yeah, it's okay. No, it didn't happen for me. Maybe somebody. It didn't happen for me. There's a couple really good groups in New York that I would go to a lot. To Atlantic Group. I mean, these guys it's serious. You go in the Atlantic Group and it's just like, what? I don't know if you've ever been to an Atlantic Group meeting, but everybody got their suits on and there's a speaker for like 45 different things, but they bring the message. And I remember hearing the message a couple times and wanting that. I wanted to be free. I didn't want to feel miserable and sad and have my life sad because I was in the middle of divorce or be upset because the kids didn't listen to me. And I wanted to be happy when I woke up in the morning, no matter what. And I got there by continuing to persevere, right? Like, never give up. I'm never giving up on the recovery because I want to be happy every morning. I want to be able to get up in the morning and be happy. And I still, every single morning I get up, I want that day to be better. I ask God to remove my selfishness, like I said. My 1 year anniversary I asked the kid's mom to come. She's like, hell no. Literally, I think she said that. And I was like, all right. Well, my dad was there, my kids were there, and my kid just brought it up today. They said, I remember when you got your first, we were there at that meeting. And I was like, yeah. And are you going to those meetings still, like in person? Because they know I'm in AA. I'm like, yeah, we're actually going one tonight. They're like, oh, okay, good. And they were there. My dad was there, and my dad said, actually, for some reason, he stood up, and it was like not really what you do in an AA meeting. He stood up and said, I'm so proud of you. I've never been this proud of you. I mean, obviously, you don't do that in an AA meeting, but it was powerful to hear that. And he was crying, and a year before that, I was in that meeting admitting I was powerless. Like I said, when I went through my inventory for the first time, it was just kind of like peeling back a hidden layer of myself I didn't even see, which was possible by going through the steps. I always had an idea of a higher power. I mean, I did, and God protected me so many times in my life. I was just thinking about this other day, like I'll go into these meditations now, and I'll have these thoughts come in my head. Holy cow! When I was getting in a lot of trouble, I was hung around with some guys who were pretty stupid people when I was younger. They were like, let's go rob a bus. I go, that sounds a little stupid. I'll think about that. And I remember thinking about it for like a day. And at the end conclusion in my head, the Chicago City bus, they wanted to rob a bus. And I'm thinking, how much money does the bus driver even have? I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I remember asking them, what are you going to get from this? So basically, my logic finally was right. I didn't go on this excursion to guns, rob a bus. They did, and they all went to jail. I mean, for some reason, I didn't go that day, and I was like 17 years old. But for some reason, I remember this other day, I'm like, man, little things, if I would have just done something a little stupider than I was already doing, I'd probably be sitting behind bars for many, many years. And I grew up in a pretty nice neighborhood, northwest side of Chicago, and we thought we were the gangsters and running around causing problems. And getting in a lot of fights. And I've been making amends trying to find certain people I've gotten in fights with. And that's not easy to do. You figure like in the day and age of social media and technology, you can find somebody. And I'm like, what is this guy's name? And it's like a detective search sometimes try to make an amends. And I've been able to, it just wasn't, when you're making amends, I mean, obviously 5 and 6 and 7, I still do that all the time, asking God to remove my defects. But with the amends, I've been able to show up for people who I knew when I was a teenager, and I just wasn't good to, like some girls I would date or hook up with. And recently, they've called me, like one of her brothers died in a horrible car crash, and I've been able to kind of like listen on the phone and hear her out. And, bless you. So I mean, it was nice to be able to do that recently. And today I went and got a bunch of stuff from the kids to their mom, and I'm like, am I doing? I try to look at my motives. Am I doing this to just be nice, or am I doing this to try to gain favor? And I think I was just trying to be nice from the kids, and I examine myself frequently. You know, when I'm doing almost anything now, I look at my actions. I try to meditate in the morning on how my day's going to go, and what could possibly go wrong, what can go right. Meditating in the morning, well, who meditates? That's what I thought when I started. But it's very, very peaceful when I can meditate, look out the window a little bit, close my eyes, and I can actually kind of imagine the day going well, and we're going whatever. I have a mantra sometimes I say to myself, and that's very helpful to do that in the morning. My day goes a lot better than if I start off, with the kids waking up before me, and I don't have a coffee, and I'm all over the place. It doesn't go well. 1 second. Yeah, so we came on here to see the speaker. He's all amped up all the time, this guy Robbie. And now I'm trying. I can't be like this guy. I mean, he's so amped up. I've never seen him speak before. He's fired up, man. But I'm grateful for AA. I'll just go back to that because we started doing a gratitude chat a while back, and that's something that I bring it to my kids now. Like, gratitude is huge. I mean, I can start to be grateful for anything. And I mean, I was very, very ungrateful. And I'll give an example of that. How gratitude's changed my mindset because I'm so thankful for the little things I have. Right? I remember my in-laws were always so nice to me, and my ex was, I'm using that word, but she was so nice to me and loving to me. And I just wasn't appreciative of anything. And they brought these gifts one time over. And she brings the gifts in. And I like to cook. I like to stay in the kitchen and cook. And she gives me these beautiful knives. And I'm like, I literally pick up the thing of knives. I look underneath it. I'm like, but they're made in China. And she started she's like, what's wrong with this guy? I wanted the German ones. And I was ungrateful for everything. And I think being ungrateful, I constantly sought more. Just being unselfish. Being selfish is it's a bad way to live. Like consuming and not appreciating. Constantly not appreciating. I don't know if anybody else out there is like that, but I could go a whole day finding faults in everybody and not being grateful for a thing. And now I could almost go a whole day and have peace and serenity and being kind and loving to everybody. I almost go a whole day. I haven't been able to get to the whole day yet. So maybe it comes in after 6 or 7 years of recovery. Maybe it comes instantly. I don't know for some people. For the pause button is still tricky for me. And it's like I know I want to stop my actions before I do it. And I'm like, stop. Nah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to just say this. And it never works out. It doesn't work out. And then now looking back at it, I'm like, you know what? I should have let it play out this way because it probably would have happened the exact same way that I tried to force. So I still try to force things. And, I had a good home group for a long time. I can still build up resentments, and I can still build up, these just judgments on people and be critical. And the home group, I wanted to celebrate my 3rd year anniversary there. And I thought I was active in the home group. I would go and put away chairs. I would help with the coffee. I donated to their intergroup, whatever. I donated to their thing. And it was a Zoom celebration. I'm like, hey, I'm going to celebrate my 3rd year. And they're like, you're not a home group member. I'm like, what? I'm like, I come to all the meetings. I donate. Are you active? I'm like, yeah. And I just stopped fighting, but they didn't even let me celebrate. And I was resentful about that. Well, maybe I'm still resentful about it. But those are the things that don't even realize it, but I can carry resentment still. And resentment is the number one offender. I'm seeing that in the big book. Resentment is the number one offender. I remember I did a 4-step. I do 4-step with a couple of sponsors. once a month, I do a new 4-step with somebody. And what does this one guy say? Like, I'm not resentful of anybody. I'm like, I guarantee you resemble somebody. He's out in L.A. I guarantee you resemble somebody. Just, like, who do you have a grudge against? He's like, nobody. Nobody. I like everybody. I'm like, I've been hearing you talk for weeks, and you hate everybody. And he's like, just take a couple minutes, look at yourself, meditate, and pray, and ask God. I swear to you, within like 30 seconds, he's like, all right, I've started. I'm like, I'll call you in like 2 hours. This guy had a list that was, a full notebook. And that's how I was too. I had a full notebook full of resentments. He's like, I never knew I resented anybody. I didn't even know what a resentment was. And I'm like, yeah, it's eating you alive. But, it's also, it's freeing when you go through it. With 6 and 7 for me as well, I listened to this audio book and Drop the Rock. I'm sure some of you have read it and listened to it. Or, I constantly ask God to remove my defects of character. And it says, like in this references, they say that they leave the defects sometimes in order to let something happen or to prove that you still have them. And I remember coming today, and I just got into a little thing with my son, and I was like forcing him to go to the next door neighbor and say happy birthday. I'm like, you're going to get to the next door neighbor and you're going to say happy birthday. He said, I don't want to. I'm like, you're going. I pick him up. And he's like, ah. And I just said, you know what, get in the car. We're leaving. And I'm in the car leaving to come here to this meeting. And I just kind of lost it. I'm like, God, I don't know what I can do, but just remove this controlling from me. Remove this fear from me. I don't know what it is. I can't live like this anymore. So maybe I need to get to these series of surrenders still. I need to have these surrenders where I make mistakes in order to see that I still have it. Because I'm definitely not perfect. I'll have to say it to my kids once a week. I'm like, I'm not perfect. So it almost gives me this excuse. Like, I know I can say that. Like, I'm not perfect. But I have to try to get there. I have to try to get to a point of being kinder, being loving. But I like this 12-step. I like the 12-step because I do my best to practice these principles in everything I do, from work to family to with interactions with my dad and his wife. I mean, they just sent me a box of 1990s hockey cards that I've been saving at my dad's house, like just not wrapped or anything, so they're all dented. I'm like, oh man. I'm looking at these cards, and it's just like, these were 30-year-old cards, and they're all dented up to hundreds of dollars. And my brother's going off in a text message chain, like, you can't do that. And it's like, you know what? Thanks for the cards. Like, I just didn't engage negatively. And my son got a kick out of the cards, and he's given away to his friends. And at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, right? If I can have some cards and not make a big deal, if my dad feels bad that they put it in a box and blah, blah, blah. So it's like little things that I can blow them up very easily. When I was 6 months sober, my cousin died, and he lived in Miami. I used to go down there and party with him all the time. He was only 49 when he died, and I remember like being on the train going to work, and I went on Facebook, and I just got a text message from my other cousin, and I'm like, in my mask, put this up here, and my cousin. He had hepatitis C, but it wasn't like a deadly. You usually don't die from hepatitis C. But he had gone to the doctor years before, and they told him, if you drink, you're going to die. I mean, literally that's what they said to him. And I remember he was, I used to party with him when I was 19 to go out and drink just 20 gin and tonics. I remember that one night. I literally did that. I counted them all like 19, and I didn't even have a hangover when you're 19. You don't feel anything. But he kept doing that, right? Like when you're 40 and you're drinking like that, and you're living a lifestyle of partying, 45, 49, if you're sick. And if a doctor, that's the craziest thing about this disease to me, is like you can know you're going to die if you drink, but it doesn't matter. And that's why that, for me, like that awakening a spiritual awakening, that rock bottom was needed. Because otherwise I wouldn't be there for my kids. I wouldn't be able to, give their mom flowers on Mother's Day. I wouldn't be able to, take a box of cards to my dad and be kind and loving to my dad and come out and make a drive out to Doylestown. I'd be freaking dead. It would have happened, 100%. So I guess he drank too much, and they found him on the floor of his condo. 49 years old, perfect health, seemed like he was like a swimmer, great shape, lived in Miami, lived a life, dead. And we went to the funeral, and it was like he always used to wear these derby hats, and everybody's wearing these derby hats, and we came back to the condo afterwards, and everybody literally went on the balcony and was drinking. I remember I was just pretty new to sobriety. I was only 6 months sober, and I literally locked the door in the bedroom, and I'm crying. How could they do this, right? How could they drink when he died? And my dad came in. Are you okay? I'm like, I need to go somewhere. I looked up the app. I took out the app, and there happened to be a clubhouse like 2 blocks away. So I plug it in my phone. I run to the meeting, and I throw up on the meeting. Like Ron said, and I'm like, I just came from the funeral. I mean, it was horrible, but no one knows any better. They don't know that this is a killer disease. We don't even know it's a killer disease until we end up here. You could have told me I would have died, and I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I'm not going to die. I'm invincible. But you will die. But you will die if you continue to drink and use drugs. And 4 years in here, I've seen people die. There's a couple people during quarantine who died, right? A guy died, we see him on our Sober Dad group on Zoom meetings. And then he's gone. Just gone. Dead. Overdose. And it happens all the time. It's crazy. When you get sober and you see the people dying and that people don't get it, that was always the challenging thing for me, is the denial part of it, and just like the not even admitting it and not understanding that we have a deadly and progressive disease, that unless we treat it with a spiritual experience, working these steps, right, the triangle, service, unity, fellowship, and it will die. So, and I'm grateful to be here, because I said, I would be one of those people, like my mom. 3 years after my recovery and being recovered, I went home, and my dad, I actually just did a amends to the hospital. I hated the hospital where she died, because I was blaming that place, and I left that place, and I was getting hot dogs, and I saw the hospital. I was like, I gotta make an amends. So I go home, and my dad told me that they tried to get her into a rehab 2 weeks before she died. And I'm not trying to bring, a bunch of death into this, and make it a sad meeting, but it's just a reality. And, today, the farthest thing from my mind is dying from drinking and alcoholism. I mean, maybe I'm hoping I can have a nice, healthy life and live and be productive and be there for my kids when I get old and be a grandpa and all that. But I'm not worrying about dying tonight, going out, taking pills, drinking. No urge to drink, no urge to use drugs. Do I have an urge to get my way still? Yes. And I don't know when that's going to change at some point, but it's one day at a time to continually get better. And by getting better, removing the drink and the drugs is the first step, right? And the rest of the stuff continues. The steps continue. I love the saying, progress, not perfection, because it gives me some leeway. I can make mistakes. I can continue to grow. I continue to do my best. I get down on my knees, low, and I talk to the kids, and I'll say, listen, I love you. God loves you, and we're doing the best we can. And I feel like that's what I have to do in recovery as well. So I've got a couple more minutes here, and I think if you're new to AA, which I don't know how many Dayconers or anybody who's new here, but it does work, right? And it might not make sense at first because, looking at this, it's like how can 12 steps change my life and save my life? And I kind of got that too. But at first, just come in and listen to people and show up and be willing. If you're willing to do the work, and if you just move forward with the steps, it'll happen by itself. You don't have to try. You just have to attempt to listen to somebody, to be willing to be honest and talk about it. And as you go through it, in the higher power process, it's actually kind of simple. Like, I'm not making a chair my higher power, though. I don't believe in that. I believe that this universe is so complex and it's beautiful, and there's all those creatures and nature. Like, just look at how beautiful the world is if you have a problem with the third step, and tell me that there's not something bigger. And with the inventory, I'll tell you this: the easiest way to do inventory is it's like, do you want to take your entire life with you everywhere you go? If you went on a trip, would you want a million bags, or you want to just move simply? Like, just get rid of the baggage. You don't need to take it. There's no reason to take the baggage. In 6 and 7, it's very simple too. Like, for me, I can remove the negativity, the bad parts of my life. I can, even the ones I don't even know that I have are defects. Like the 7-step prayer, I didn't even memorize the 7-step prayer because I think I want to keep some of these still. I want to keep some of the defects, right? But it's very important that I continue to ask God to move the good and the bad that He sees me fit, and making the amends as I cleaning up my side of the street. And 10 and 11, it's just being more peaceful throughout the day, being kind and being loving, and having some serenity. I had no idea what serenity was. Now I have an idea of it. And then the 12 step it's amazing to be able to help somebody. And if I can help somebody, then I did my job. And I'm okay with that. So thank you for having me. Thanks, Ron. I appreciate it.
Okay. Marko, thank you for coming here tonight and sharing that message of hope. That was awesome. I thought you did an incredible job. A couple of quick announcements, and we'll make our way out of here. The Food and the Fellowship for this group does start at 8 o'clock. Every week, so if you want to get here early, we got the refreshments out. Come and hang out. If you want to help out with some service work, because we always have some.
Hot dogs out. They're over there now.
Oh, so apparently we got hot dogs over there. So if anybody wants a hot dog, on the way out the door, that's the deal right there. But yeah, if you want to if you show up early, you want to get involved with some service work, there's always a lot of moving parts for this meeting of this size on a week-to-week basis, so any help is appreciated. If you want to help out with some service work right after the meeting, we're probably going to need to put the chairs away on the racks. You can help out with that. If you're new or if you're struggling, there's always a meeting after the meeting, so grab somebody. We'll be hanging out for a little while here. This group does have a Facebook page, so if you want to follow us on the Facebook page. That'll keep you informed with happenings for this group, upcoming speakers. A lot of other groups post their happenings, anniversaries, that kind of stuff. So it's a good resource to use. Stay plugged in with meetings in this area. Let's give one more quick round of applause to Marko for speaking tonight, giving us a great meeting. And with that, we'll close. I guess we'll just stay seated or stand in place, and we'll close with the Lord's Prayer, if you'd like. And a moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Oh, I should have shut this off.